Hey there, I'm Dr. Katie McNichol, licensed mental health counselor, and I specialize in the mental health and well-being of teenage girls and young women. And one of my favorite things to do is to speak to groups of girls and ask them to send me anonymous questions, things that they've got rolling around in their head that if given the opportunity to talk to a counselor, what might they ask? I do this for a host of reasons. One, it allows them to really ask questions that maybe they would be embarrassed or uncomfortable to ask if they raise their hand. The other is so that the girls that are in the group setting will see that they're not alone. Like most of the time, there's a lot of overlap in the questions that I get. But I'm doing this series right now more for parents than anything because I want you to understand these are the things that are rolling around inside her head. And it starts to give you just a glimpse of what the teenage mind is really like, right? I'm sure you've questioned all the time, what in the world is she thinking? So over the years, I've gathered tons of questions. They submit them on note cards, pieces of paper like this. Sometimes they're messaged in. But this one I really liked because these were 5 questions that one girl asked me to answer. And I think on a deeper level, it's going to show you just the variety of things that are going on inside her head and what might be important to her. So I'm going to run down the list. We're going to talk about it. So the first question is how to not stress eat. The second one, how to talk to my parents when they're mad at me. How to get along with my siblings. How to flirt. And tips for good skin. So I just think this series of 5 questions sums up teenage girls in so many ways, right? So we're talking about food and eating, right? We've got a lot going on in our culture about diet, especially now. And she's been able to kind of tie that she maybe stress eats at times and doesn't want to do that. The other piece is parents, and I hear this a lot. How do I talk to my parents without them or when they're mad at me? I get that question a lot, and we will go into detail on that. How to get along with my siblings. Believe it or not, a lot of times girls really don't like that they're fighting with their siblings. They will tell me they wish they had a better relationship, but there's just something about a sibling, right, that brings out this side of you. So how do I get along with my siblings? How to flirt. Again, we're talking about teenage girls. Like I've had clients over the years that have plenty of experience with flirting and being in relationships and dating. And then I've had clients in their 20s that have never been on a date, never kissed a boy, never held hands with somebody, and really don't have any idea how to interact with somebody that they might be interested in romantically. And then finally, the one I love the most, tips for good skin, right? Because again, as a teenage girl, her brain is just processing all these things all the time. So I probably won't go into detail on every single one of these because I think especially the parent one should be a separate one because I have so many questions about parents. But this was more for you to get an idea that her brain is often pinging all these different things, right? We've got family stuff going on. She cares about how she looks and how she's presenting herself to the world. Dating and romantic relationships, I can tell you that's probably the number one stressor that I deal with. Girls that are struggling when it comes to dating or wanting to date, that is probably one of their biggest anxieties. And that is from, I would say, probably high school and up. That tends to be the bigger issue. Middle school is a lot of just bouncing around and, I like boys, I like girls. They're trying to figure things out. They're not sure what's going on. They don't even know how to talk to boys at that age. So how to flirt is a big one. And then again, the skin and what they can do to improve their skin. Believe it or not, that is an issue I deal with more than you would think. I have a lot of clients that come in and feel very insecure about their skin. There's so many hormonal things going on in the teen years and nobody's talking to them about that. So that is something that I tend to bring into the sessions because their hormones and their period, their menstrual cycle, it's affecting everything, especially their mental health. And when they don't like what they look at in the mirror, and I'm not just talking about on a basic surface level of like, my face isn't round enough or I don't like the color of my eyes, but when they're really struggling with something, maybe they are struggling with weight, whether they're overweight or underweight. Maybe they really are struggling with acne. Acne brings out so many insecurities for girls. So I feel like in today's culture, there's a lot of pressure to put together a skincare routine. Again, you'd be surprised. I have a lot of clients that talk to me when they're discussing self-care, the skincare routines that they're trying. They're being influenced, right? They're being influenced by social media and what's being put out there, and that pressure to take care of their skin at an early age. So I hope that this offers you a little bit more insight, and it just gives you a glimpse that she's not just thinking about one thing all the time. She's really thinking of all these different things, and it's like popcorn. I learned early on in counseling that teenage girls are going to bring to the table a lot of topics, and you have to be careful about honing in on too much. You really have to look at that bigger picture. You really want to get that snapshot, kind of more that macro level with a teen versus the micro, because if you hone in on the micro too much, you might miss the bigger thing that's going on. And when I listen to these questions, I really kind of hear that this girl may be struggling with some of the typical insecurities that a teenage girl is dealing with and just wants to know, how do I handle this stuff better? What can I do to make my life a little easier when it comes to these things? So, hope that gives you some help.